stations are tuned into.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Hello and Happy New Year. Welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn here on Business Talk Radio and live on social media. I am your host and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I am a certified life and career coach. And with me today on our show about stories of hope, inspiration, and overcoming adversity is someone who is an author, a speaker, a Toastmaster, and an all-around just wonderful human being. Welcome to the program, Red O'Loughlin.
Thank you so very much, Doctor, and Happy New Year to you, too.
It's hard to believe it's the last day of this year, isn't it?
It is welcome to be the last day of this year. With everything that's been going on, I think everybody wants to get away from 2020.
Absolutely. How was the year overall for you?
As a speaker, my business actually picked up quite a bit. I'm speaking probably 4, 5, 6 times a month. I got a couple of paid gigs out of it. That was very, very welcome. As a writer, I've written every single day. I posted on LinkedIn and Facebook, my website, 366 articles or blogs this year, over 170 on COVID. As a publisher, I had 6 clients going into COVID, and then all of a sudden, cash flow and who knows what else happened, and that's kind of dried up until just very recently, and I'm starting to get some clients back in my publishing business. So from that perspective, things went well. From a health perspective, it couldn't be better. It's just been an exceptionally good year. In spite of COVID, despite of COVID, it doesn't matter. It's been a good year.
Well, congratulations. I'm really happy to hear that. And it sounds like you're the kind of person who would make it a good year regardless.
Absolutely. You asked me how I was earlier, and I said, excellent as always. I had a mentor many years ago. He used that expression, and I gradually adopted it. And I found out after about 30 days, it's natural. It comes. I feel it. And those 1 or 2 days a year that I absolutely do not feel excellent, I say that, and literally I can feel the change in my body within 20 seconds. I can actually feel a transition happening. I say excellent as always, and somehow the brain just adopts that, and that's what I become.
Yes, I truly believe that myself. Thank you for sharing that. And you're in Texas, correct?
That is correct. I'm in a suburb southwest of downtown Houston called Missouri City.
And we were introduced by a good friend of mine whom I've actually can't wait to meet in person, Diane Floyd-Bain. She is also in Texas, and she said that I needed to meet with you and to interview you. So I'm glad that we're here today.
I am so thankful for Diane for introducing us. I really am. That's very nice of her to do that.
So you've written 2 books, and I'd love to hear all about what that journey was like for you to decide to publish. And you said you've been writing all through this pandemic. So when did the realization come that writing was something that came to you naturally?
I've written my entire life. I've written thousands of procedures for companies I've been in, military, for civilian life, academia. It comes naturally. I just feel comfortable doing it. That's why when I set my mindset at the beginning of 2020 to write a blog a day for 31 days, it just extended over to 366 days in a row. But my first opportunity came after I was welcomed into retirement by my company. They said, have a good time. And that was 2007. And I started shifting, working at myself rather than other things. And I was introduced to the topic of self-improvement. And I had never really had that before. All the companies I had been with wanted to teach me to be a better supervisor, a better budgeter, a better whatever, planner, but nothing about a better me. And all of a sudden I started getting into a field I was never in. And I wrote my first book, No Matter What You Can Do It. Oops, hang on one second. I shifted around trying to get better lighting, but No Matter What You Can Do It, I wrote about 2010. And it deals with the subconscious mind. Dr. Maxwell Maltz wrote a book in 1950 called Psychocybernetics, and it talks about how our subconscious mind actually works. And it's is magnificent, and we can control a lot of things that we didn't know we could control, and the things that we think we have control over, we don't. And once you understand that, it makes it easy. Then I wrote another book that has since gone out of print on essentially how do you plan for things, and I've been revising that one. It was done quickly, and I really wasn't happy with it, so I took it off and revising it. Then my wife came down with cancer about 2013. We didn't know it until about 2014. And as a caregiver to her, this was one journey that actually transitioned my writing, my whole philosophy in life. As she was going through things, I found out that my real passion is not about how to improve myself, but how to understand and improve my body and everyone else's. I researched what goes on in the human body at the cellular level, biochemically speaking. My first true love was chemistry, long before I met my wife. I got a degree in it, but unfortunately I got an invitation to Vietnam and I never got a chance to practice it. Nowadays I have 6 Saturdays and a Sunday every week, and I love researching what's going on. I look for cause and effect relationships. You treat a cause, you fix a problem. You treat a symptom, and you keep treating that symptom. So if I know what causes something to happen, you either stop the cause or you inhibit it or you use something else. And that's when I started getting into longevity. As I was researching what was wrong with my wife, going through her chemo and everything, all of a sudden it dawned on me, my chemistry, I love doing this stuff. And so I wrote a book, Longevity Secrets of Healthy Aging. I talk about the 2 primary causes of aging and many, many factors that accelerate or decelerate. And then as I got through that with my wife, about a year after she went through chemo and radiation, we walked the Camino de Santiago in Cuba, in Spain, which is a 500-mile walk. We did it in 30 days. But part of the reason to get there was the day between her chemo and radiation, the only side effect I could not handle was fatigue. For whatever reason, she was taking 1 or 2 2-hour naps a day. I couldn't do anything. Every other side effect I could address some way, shape, or form. But when I put her on what's called the Walls Protocol, W-A-H-L-S, Dr. Terry Walls is an internist, I believe, and she came down with MS very late in life. But she managed to overcome it very, very easily with the protocol she put herself on. She'd been in a wheelchair for 4 years. She put herself on her own protocol. Boom. 3 months later, she's walking using a walker. A month later, walking using a cane. End of the year, she's bicycling 18 miles. So I put my wife on that, and the most amazing thing happened. In 48 hours, months of chemo fog was gone. She was no longer taking naps. She didn't take a nap for another couple of years. A week later, she was volunteering herself back up at the church. She went through all of radiation, which the radiologist told us would probably increase her fatigue. No problems. But the amazing thing was, on the last day of radiation, we left Houston, Texas, and drove to Jacksonville, Florida, 1,000 miles. And I rented a U-Haul. She followed me by herself 500 miles each day in the car, 48 hours after her last radiation. All of this because of the Walls Protocol, diet only. There's 4 portions to the protocol. We concentrated on just the diet. It's balanced nutrition. And that part convinced me more than anything else, that's the area that I need to be in. And that's when I wrote another book called The Joy of Ageless Health. And in that book, I talk about the things that you really need. Diet is one of several. But if you're going to be truly healthy, live a long life, those are the things you need to concentrate on. And the conscious decisions we make as the choices of food, the amount of food, the times we eat, those things are all critical. That's what changed my writing from self-improvement over to let's help everybody else. And that's what I spend my time on. I try to take technical subjects and make them very, very understandable.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. That's really tremendous. And what you're doing, the work you're doing, and the story that you just shared about your wife is really so inspirational and incredible. I'm really honored to have you here today. So is your philosophy and your approach, and also the Walls diet, because I'm not familiar with that, is that basically eliminating pharmaceuticals?
It concentrates on 30 plus nutrients the body needs every day. There's 4 parts to the protocol. Diet is one, toxin removal is another, stress management is another, and exercise is another. With her and her shape, taking naps and everything else, there's no way exercise or stress management was going to be in there. She was just out. But toxins, we've been aware of for a long time, very well educated on them. I avoid almost anything with toxins in it as best I can. I buy nothing but organic unless I can't find something. So we concentrated on the diet. And what we found out on the diet was we couldn't eat everything. It basically, one meal, and they say 3 meals a day, but one meal is a cup of leafy green vegetables, 1 cup of colored fruits and vegetables, where the color goes all the way through the fruit or the vegetable. Think blueberry, not eggplant. 1 cup of sulfur-laden vegetables. Those are your cruciferous vegetables, onions, garlic, and things like that. And 3 to 4 ounces of high-quality protein. Now, the one thing I did was to tweak the protein. I do not have the same protein 48 hours in a row. So if I have beef and shrimp today, tomorrow I'll have salmon and chicken. So I try not to have the same protein. I try to get the body to take protein sources out of different places. But those are the things it does. You're not hearing anything about a lot of fat. You're not hearing anything about a lot of carbohydrates. But you are getting everything you need, over 30 nutrients on a daily basis. And that's what really made the difference for my wife.
Does that include eliminating such things as caffeine, sugar?
Sugar, yes. Caffeine, not so much. I have a blend of 6 teas that I do every single day. Most of them are for longevity. I have a white tea, a green tea, pu'er, pochong, gynostemma, and one other one that I have. But I mix all those together. Just for a second, I lost track of what the other one was. But those are the teas, and all of them have caffeine in it. But I find I can drink the tea until 10 o'clock at night. It has no effect on my sleeping or whatsoever. Sugar, yes, because there's a lot of issues with sugar as far as inflammation in the body, particularly the brain. A lot of articles are coming out here in the last several years about type 3 diabetes being your introduction to Alzheimer's. So yes, it is a low. Now, do you have to go totally without? I get a lot of carbohydrates and spinach and other berries and the things that I have, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, etc. But I'm not totally devoid, but I am probably on a general basis under 20-25 grams of carbohydrates a day, just as a general rule. I had a bad experience with Atkins. I was on it for 6 years. I loved it. I lost 50 pounds, kept it off for a long time. Couldn't run 6 or 8 miles that I used to easily. I could run a couple. But the thing was, I didn't realize that when you're in an acidic environment in your body, the bloodstream will extract calcium from your bones in order to maintain a pH of around 7.4. I didn't realize it. I had been running for decades. I've been lifting weights for decades. I thought I had pretty good bones. However, I had a bone density test around 2000, 2001, and I was osteopenia. I couldn't believe it. When I did my research, I found out that to get calcium to the bone, you have to have a calcium source that's good, usually, a vegetable or something. You could take a pill, but it has to be the right kinds of pills. You need magnesium to get it bioabsorbable. You need vitamin D3 to get it into the bloodstream. Otherwise, everything ends up in the toilet. And you need vitamin K2 to actually get it into the bones. If you're not doing those 4 things, it doesn't get to the bones. The calcium will end up in your blood vessel, your arteries, your heart valves. So it's really critical to keep that in there. So you need an alkaline environment in the body. Otherwise, the body is going to extract calcium as fast as you give it to it. So the diet that I have with Walls keeps me around 7.4, 7.5, 7.6. I used to test my pH every day, morning and night, for a couple of years. And I feel like so long as I know what I'm eating, I know what my pH is. But that is part of the problem, is that if you're getting off of that with sugars, now all of a sudden you're starting to be acidic. Breathing, exercise, proteins, carbohydrates, fats are all acidic. Fruits and vegetables are not.
Well, I think this is a very valid and an important time to have this kind of information as we start the new year. So I'm interested, we're going to take a break now and hear from our sponsors, but I'm interested when we come back to hear about how you work with your clients as a coach. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there now looking for some tips, and you've just given us a lot of good information, but it's also, for some people, it's going to be a process, right? It's going to be taking that first step. So when we come back, yeah, let's talk about that. So stay with us here on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn here on Business Talk Radio and social media. Also remember that you can put some comments regardless of which platform you're on. If you put a comment in, we will read it out. Thank you so much. Stay with us.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Happy New Year and welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn on Business Talk Radio and social media. Just another opportunity for you to put your comments in. So my guest today, Red O'Loughlin, can answer your questions. Red, so nice to see you. Thanks for sticking around through the break.
I would not miss it.
So, Red, let's talk about the type of work that you do as a coach. What type of coach would you say you are?
I am more of a book coach than anything else. I am basically a publisher. I have a very unique perspective. I take a finished manuscript. I create the accounts at Amazon and Kindle. I put the books in. I deliver a book usually within 2 weeks, and I turn everything over to the author. I do not get involved in any of the editing and prior to publishing. I have sources that can do that. And the same thing on the other end, the press releases and the marketing. I have sources for that. All I do is a very, very low cost. I get the book done quickly for you. Most of my clients are brand new. Most of them have never written a book before. And I had one guy who had spent 20 years writing a book. He was involved in a friendly fire accident on the Cambodia-Vietnam border in April of 1969. Half his squad was wiped out. He found out later it was covered up. He did everything in his power to let the world know. Anyway, long story short, he wrote almost a 500-page book on that event and his subsequent life. He spent 10 years trying to get it published. I published it for him. 2 weeks later, he had it. I had another friend that I was telling in a Toastmaster meeting. I said, it's a whole lot better to be known as a speaker, add credibility, if you're also introduced as a published author, even in the same field you're speaking in. About a year later, I'm at another Toastmaster meeting. He's there and he says, hey, I need to talk. And what happened was he had taken that to heart. He had written a book, but he couldn't figure out how to get it published. 2 weeks later, he had a book in his hand. So I work with people who have never written books, who want to write a book. Seriously, Jacalyn, if you wanted to write a book and I said, tell me about the first car you ever had, you could do that without even thinking. So if you're in a business, maybe it's a memoir, maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's your consulting business, your public speaking, it doesn't matter. You can write a book literally in a weekend. It's that simple. What you need, what helps, I tell people, get about 40 questions that you know your audience needs to know the answer to. Then with each one of those, pick the best 20, because you may end up with 2 books. But pick the best 20 with each question. Let's say they want to know about your car. Well, what was your first car? How did you get it? Where did you go to? What kind of really little testimonies, little vignettes about your life in that story. And you and I have a conversation, eyeball to eyeball. It gets recorded. For $1 a minute, a company will translate or transcribe your audio and put it onto paper. 24 hours later, you have a manuscript in your hand. So if you have 20 questions with 5, 6 bullets with each one that tells you, this is the topic, this is the way I want to cover it, literally in 2 or 3 hours, you've talked yourself through a book. And the best part is it needs almost no editing. That is the beauty, because you can spend 6 months writing a book and another 6 months editing a book. But if you can get the book out and it's a dialogue between 2 people, the dynamic when 2 people are listening to each other, it's totally different than you standing up at a stage on a podium and lecturing. It's not the same. You can record it. Yes, it can go into a book, but the dynamic is not there. But when you add those little vignettes of what happened, like I was on the high bridge at Corpus Christi, all of a sudden my left rear wheel came off and passed me. I drove down the bridge on 3 wheels and a brake drum. Those little stories that go with some of the things that you've done. I've been to 61 countries in the world. I've had numerous stories about places I've been that are just interesting. Besides Vietnam and Bosnia, there are a lot of good places I've been in my life. Get my wife to 31 of them. But those are things that if you have the passion between, let's say you have a topic and you're a motivational speaker, you probably have 3 or 4 books because you don't concentrate on the same thing at every speech. When I go out and I speak, it's generally on a topic of longevity, anti-aging, age-related diseases. Alzheimer's is a big one. Those are things I talk about, and I address everything to that audience. But if I were to take that as a speaker and put it into questions and to bullets, the book becomes an afterthought. It's a done deal. That's what I work with.
Wow, you are so passionate about that. And you know what's interesting, Red, is I've started to write a book. I'm in the 3rd chapter and I'm literally stuck. So I will be reaching out to you.
More than happy to help. All the part on the front end is free. I do true free content changes, no questions asked. I do a cover change, no questions asked. All I do is I work with you through your finished product, answer your questions, push you in the right direction, get you the right people. But I don't get involved in that other than answering your questions. But once you have that finished manuscript in your hand, that's when I go to work, and usually a couple of weeks later, you have one of these in your hand. That's what I do.
And you obviously do it very well.
Thank you.
It's really exciting. Let's talk about the fact that you are a distinguished Toastmaster. And for those watching or listening who don't know what that means, can you give us an explanation?
In 2007, one of the things I set my own personal goal along with my company's goals is I wanted to become a better speaker. So I joined Toastmasters at the company I was with. And I went to the meetings every week. They were right there in the company. And I found out I had a very good ability to take a 5-minute topic and just cram it into 20 minutes. No problems at all. I could repeat things. I could come back. I could get lost. But to take 20 minutes worth of content and put it logically, easily into a 5-minute segment is what I learned in Toastmasters. I learned how to use a lot of the tools of pauses, of increased voice, of a lot of things, and each one of those things are used in a different way. We're in a COVID world now where almost everything is Zoom or StreamYard or some other kind of video. And it's a little different. If I'm just speaking to you on a phone, you can hear my enthusiasm. But if I'm using my body language, my eyes, my face, you can see a little bit more. And that's the same thing when you connect with the audience. I'm looking at the audience and I'm taking what we call down here maybe a Texas two-step. I take a step this way and bring my other foot up and I'm talking to the side of the audience. I get a nod or somebody acknowledges, then I step back, I step over 2 steps, and I look at this side of the audience. And I go back and forth gradually where I may speak over here for a minute or so, and I make sure that I get good understanding of what I'm saying. And when you're doing that, you're communicating with the audience. It's nice to be professorial and say, do these threes and this. But when you had that little story about how this happened when that was going on, people remember stories. And that's what I try to tell people in their books. You can have the best book in the world, but they're not going to remember unless you have the stories to go with it. That's a thing that really separates a really good book from a book.
And people like to hear a good story from a good storyteller.
Oh, they do. There are some excellent storytellers. They may not know how to type. They may not know how to write. They may not know syntax, diction. But when they're talking, that's them. And that's what people want to hear. And that's the beauty of having this thing on a one-on-one basis. If you try to do it, sometimes it's better to do it with somebody you don't know. Maybe you're just an associate. Sometimes I could do it easily with my wife. We've been married 52 years.
Aww.
And it's an easy thing to go back and forth because she knows things that maybe I should have said. And if the understanding is, okay, Dr. Jacalyn, you had this little thing here. What about this? Because I don't think you covered it well enough. And I know you know more about that. You can kind of get that little extra, but that can be edited out at the final process of the manuscript. But you want to have that dynamic of you're telling me something that I really need to know. I'm absorbing it because you're seeing it in my face and my body expression. And so it's encouraging you to have that little extra passion in your voice. Otherwise, you're just talking into a camera, and it's not quite the same thing.
So for everybody who's out there who might be in the same position I'm in, where I started a book and then I just couldn't move further, you are the man to call.
I can help get them started again, but again, it's their passion to carry them through. I've had several people, I got 5 books that I want to write, but they can't seem to get one done. They can't seem to get a chapter done when it becomes important to them. One of the things I did in January this year was to say, I'm going to write a blog a day, an article a day. I've written 366 this year, have not missed a day. But that was my mindset at the beginning of the year. I was not going to miss a day. It was originally for 31 days in January, but it kind of drooled over a little bit. And then when I got to about 100, 150, I said, 366 is a piece of cake. Now, if I write another 365 next year, that'll put me a little over 1,000 articles on LinkedIn. But it's just those things that if your mindset is there to do it, whether it's with your health, a relationship, a book, it doesn't matter. I do a 72-hour fast every month. Every month. I've been doing it now for over a couple of years. It's to improve my immune system. There's reasons for it. I also try to extend that to 120, 140 hours, about 3 months out of the year, because that rebuilds the pancreas. And that really is good for your insulin sensitivity. I find that if I just start and say, okay, Jacalyn, tomorrow I'm going to start a 3-day fast, 72 hours. I can do it, but it's harder. But if I spend 2 days telling myself, I'm doing a 72-hour fast, I get to 72 hours. I have no cravings. And I'm thinking, let's do 96. Let's do 120. And literally all I have is unsweetened tea and water. That's it. But if the mindset is there, it happens. And that's part of this thing with the book. Once you decide that's what you want to do, but if you're sitting there doing this all day long and you're correcting, it's going to take months. There are smarter ways of doing it depending on how well you know your topic and how well you know your audience, because you know what they want to hear, and that's what you want to give them.
Red, you're obviously very disciplined, very structured, very organized. And I'm wondering how much of an impact of you attending the U.S. Naval Academy and you going off to war has resonated in what you're doing today?
Well, I did not go to the U.S. Naval Academy. I did go into the Navy. I'm an aviator, or was an aviator, naval flight officer. I was in for 31 years. I did 4.5 on active duty until the Vietnam War was over, and then they decided that they needed a peace dividend, and I was excused. I joined the reserves. I was there for 20 years. Then I went back on active duty after the Berlin Wall fell, and I was did 2 years in New York City, 2 years in San Francisco Bay Area, 2 years in Stuttgart, Germany, and then I retired with 31 years, 20 in the reserves, and the rest on active duty. But my first degree was in chemistry, and I went to a small college in Texas called Texas A&I. And as I said, I didn't get a chance to practice chemistry. It's my first love. But then I've gotten 4 other degrees after that in totally different subjects. I got 7 professional certifications, mostly in different subjects. But my Toastmasters is one of my certifications, Distinguished Toastmaster. It took me 4 years to get it. And it's one of those things that I use. It makes it a whole lot easier. I sit there and I visualize, here are the 4 or 5, 3 topics usually. I don't like to go more than 3. But here are 3 topics. Here are 3 points about each topic. Those are the things that I can see in my brain when I'm talking to an audience. I don't have to go beyond that because those are the 3 things I want to get across. And I can go back and summarize at the end. Number 1, I said this, this, and this. Number 2, it makes it easy if you know how to structure your. You don't need a piece of paper in front of you. You don't need to be looking down because now you can talk to the audience. So if you have the opportunity to improve, Toastmasters is one of the best ones out there. The main reason is because they offer critique that is not personal. You know, if you have a problem with ahs, ums, you knows, likes, if you can't keep on time, this is a place where a bunch of kindred spirits who also want to improve can help you get there. I think I did 52 speeches for my Distinguished Toastmaster over a period of about 3.5, 4 years. And I had a competition with another guy in my club. He was 2 speeches ahead of me, then I caught up with him. I was a speech ahead. And he eventually beat me by 2 days. But when you have those little ongoing competitions, it makes it nice to do. And so that's one of those things I would highly recommend, especially if you're a business person, an entrepreneur. You're on a camera like this right now with Dr. Jack. It's one of those things you really need to do. You need to show people that you know how to talk, but you have confidence in what you're doing and you have the passion in what you're doing. If you're just sitting there and you're answering questions, it's not quite the same. You're not capturing that audience.
Did you ever see the movie When Harry Met Sally?
Oh, I did. Yes,
Do you
I love
remember that part where someone says in the restaurant, I'll have what she's having. I'm having what you're having because I love your energy and your passion. So how long have you been on this new way of eating? It's not new for you anymore, but how long has it been?
Okay, my wife had surgery in 2015 in January. We started in November of 2015, and I've been on this regimen since then. More on than off. There's a couple times we end up someplace where it's not quite the same, or we come back and we've picked up a bad habit, and then all of a sudden we're back into doing what we're doing. But since 2016, pretty steady. I might miss a couple weeks here, there, and yonder every so often. I am not on any prescription meds, never have been. I always add extra tests to my annual physicals. My C-reactive protein is almost 0. That sometimes they can't even find it. My homocysteine levels are well normal. My D3 levels are way above, not way above, 108 was the last one, nanograms per milliliter. But the things that are important to me to say how healthy I am are monitored. I've had an annual physical, mostly a flight physical, every year since 1968. I don't miss them. It's one of those things I consider very important. You have to know where you are in order to make a change, to improve, or to do something. If you don't know where you are, then just arbitrarily changing things doesn't help. You ask, how do we make those changes? Incrementally. You make this change and then you stick with it. You make this change and you stick with it. You just can't, the first thing I tell people, switch to a salad plate. That's the easiest thing you can do. Get rid of the big dinner plate, go to a salad plate. Only have one, whatever's on that plate, that's what you have. And then you start, let's make sure that what you have on the plate's reasonable. And if you're having 3 of those a day, well, why do you need 3? Why not just 2? I fast 18 hours a day. I have a 6-hour window that I eat in, and that's it. Other than that 18-hour window improves part of my longevity. It's what they call human growth hormone. Fasting is the fastest way to build up human growth hormone. It just goes zing like that. 24-hour fast, you can't believe how much you get. It's almost like being a teenager again. But human growth hormone is one of the 2 things that causes us to age. When we get older, we get less and less and less. I'm 74. normally for a 74-year-old, I'd probably have about 10% of the human growth hormone that a 4-year-old has. But because of my fasting, I keep my human growth hormone up. When it's not up, nobody else is in control. It's a human growth hormone. It keeps all the other hormones in where they're supposed to be. The other primary thing for aging is your telomere length. Every time a cell replicates and divides, it loses a telomere. When I'm in front of an audience, I usually have 50 pennies in a wrapper, and I pull one penny out and say, okay, the cell just replicated. I throw it on the table. Replicates again. When all these 50 are gone, that cell's dead. No more. That's the way our lives are. When our telomeres are used up, they're used up. But if I'm a smoker, I'm obese, I don't exercise, then maybe I'm throwing 3 pennies on the counter each time instead of 1. So there are things that we can do to improve our age. We don't want to live to 95 years of age and spend 10 years with somebody changing our diaper. That's not the quality of life we want. We want to be able to do the same things at 95 we were doing at 55. And if you don't get in that realm, then you're going to be on, well, I got 18 pills I'm taking a day, and you compare it to somebody else in the rest home who's taking 20 pills a day, because that's a badge of courage of some sort. No, I don't want to be on any prescription meds that I have to. I am on them periodically for 2 weeks or something, but that's what it is. But there are things you can do, but you got to get in that incremental habit of doing it. And the easiest thing is go to a smaller plate. Go to 2 meals a day. Cut back on this, whatever it may happen to be. But that's what I recommend to people.
So going forward for 2021, that sounds like a very easy thing to do. Instead of the dinner plate, go to the salad plate. Now, when you mentioned whatever was on there, that should be it. So do you mean if let's say you're going to have chicken, you'd only have chicken but no vegetables because you're eating the vegetables in the morning?
What I really meant to say is no seconds.
Okay.
So if I have chicken and a vegetable and some fruit and whatever else might be there on the plate, the salad, etc., and my salad's on the same plate as my regular meal, so my salad gets mixed in with everything. So if I'm having chicken, maybe the chicken's part of my salad. If I'm having something else with it, I use blueberries and raspberries a lot in my salads. That gets me part of that Dr. Wall's protocol that I'm getting the berries that I need, because that is very, very important. But I don't go back for seconds. I don't plop a dessert on top of everything when I'm done. If I have to have a brownie, maybe it's a half a brownie, I'll lay it on the side of the tray, but that's all I have because it's on that plate and that's it. I don't go back and have something later on. So it's what's on the plate, but it should be as nutritious as possible. But if we're just starting, let's just get everything on the plate. We'll worry about transitioning into what that plate should look like down the road a little bit. But if you can transition in 30 days to just eating on a salad plate, hey, you've made a marvelous start. Exactly. I believe in balanced nutrition. I also believe in caloric restriction. Most nutritionists say we need 15 calories per pound to maintain weight. Caloric restriction says 10 calories per day per pound to body weight. What does that do? Well, when you look at animals and you pull out 30% of their calories, all of a sudden they grow older, they look younger, they don't have any of the same health problems that any other animals, and we're talking everything down to the really small ones up to the big ones. You look at some of the people that's all they eat. I probably survive easily on 30 to 40% less calories than most people. But those calories are good calories because they're organic and whatever I'm eating. So those are the things that we really need to pay attention to. But that's one of those incremental steps down the road. Let's say, okay, for this month in February, I'm going to eat nothing but organic greens. Okay, that becomes that incremental goal for that month. Maybe the next month might be something slightly different. But start with the salad plate. And there's many things we can do with that one salad plate too. Have you heard the term Fletcherizing?
No, I've not.
Fletcher, I think it was Charles Fletcher. He was a big guy back in the 100 years ago. And his big deal was chewing. He chewed everything at least 30 times, including fluids. But when you get your saliva mixed in with your food, now all of a sudden you're breaking it down. You're getting it into the kind of consistency that your stomach needs to digest it. If you're just doing 3 or 4 or 5 and you swallow with some water, all of a sudden now you have glumps of stuff in your stomach. As you get older, you have less and less digestive fluid. You don't have it broken down where it makes it easy for the body to digest. So you're getting less and less nutrients out of what you just ate. They may be good nutrients. You're just not getting them into the size the body needs. So as such, if you chew it, put the fork down, look around, enjoy the taste, enjoy the texture. enjoy the smell. Just enjoy what's going on around you, and swallow it, and then pick up the next one. And now all of a sudden you're having a meal, but you're also helping your body. Now, one of the things I don't do is I don't drink any liquids 30 minutes prior to or after, because now all of a sudden I'm diluting my stomach acid. That's something not many people can do, start off. But if you have those, as I mentioned, raspberries and blueberries, you have something on the plate that adds that extra little bit of moisture to your mouthful of stuff. You don't really need those extra couple gulps of water. But if you don't dilute your digestive fluids, you chew everything really well, and it gets into the stomach, you're actually getting many more nutrients out of that. And that's what's super critical. So each one of these little incremental things can be done. Just pick a week, say, okay, this week I'm going to put that fork down and I'm just going to chew like crazy. And it takes you probably, I'm seriously, about 2 weeks before it becomes almost normal, about a month before you don't think about it.
That's really a great tip, because I think a lot of times we're just shoveling food in. We don't need it. We just keep. And I like the idea about no water or liquids 30 minutes before or after. That's something that's definitely doable. Now, with the salad plate, you don't mean pile the food up high, though, right?
Initially, you probably will, because your mind says, this is how much that I need to have on that plate. But in reality, if you're actually listening to your brain, there's a point in time that you get through your food, and all of a sudden the brain says, okay, got enough. And if you're aware of it, you can actually put your fork down, and your body is sated. It has everything it needs. But we have been conditioned to eat everything on the plate. Doesn't matter if it's something we bought and there's a lot of it. We don't necessarily want a doggy bag. We're going to eat it. It costs too much money. I'm not going to leave it on the plate. But we blow through this process that comes from here to our stomach. They're actually talking to each other. But if you actually pay attention, and I learned this in a hypnosis class a long time ago, it's there. And it usually is about halfway through a meal. All of a sudden, if you're really paying attention, there's a little voice saying, hey, I actually feel pretty good. I could stop now, but you don't. And so that's the next thing to start recognizing, is when does that occur? And then all of a sudden, the food that goes on the plate equals that amount of food. And then all of a sudden, now your mind, your body, everything's in alignment with the amount of food.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry, my mother was. So, yes, let us take a break, and we will be right back. Stay with us here on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn.
Have you just lost your job or have been laid off and you are looking to transition to a new job or career? Maybe you have even tried submitting tons of applications, and yet you keep getting turned down for jobs you qualify for. Don't wait until you become overwhelmed with rejections when you can easily transition or get your dream job. Let MJW Careers guide you to the right career path and a better, brighter future. At MJW Careers, we know what hiring managers are looking for, and our goal is to land you the job you deserve. What makes MJW Careers a wonderful provider over other services is our pragmatic and scientific approach to resume writing. There are rules, there are visual cues, there are content best practices. We understand those and work within the boundaries to ensure our clients' messaging appeals to the decision makers. Our career consultants will help you transition into new roles quickly and effectively. With our experience in virtually every industry, we will provide direction in the frustrating job market by helping you write a customized, professional resume and prepare you for your interview as well. Join the great number of people we have helped scale up to greater things in their careers. Let us help you on your career journey. Come visit us, www.jobstickers.com, to learn more and grab a free resume review or ebook.
Located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey, is Margie Cidrone, Artisan Jeweler. Margie's been in business for more than 30 years. She works with her clients to create custom pieces of jewelry to reflect their personality and help them make their own bold statement. Starting in the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia in 1988, Margie works directly with her clients to develop one-of-a-kind pieces such as necklaces, engagement rings, wedding bands, unique watches and tennis bracelets, as well as a myriad of rings and earrings for everyone in your family. She also has worked directly with Dr. Jacalyn over the years, creating unique pieces of jewelry to reflect her personality. She does pearl stringing and repairs on site at 121 Haddon Avenue. Call or text Margie at 384-7155. Margie Cidrone Jewelry is open by appointment only. Make your own bold statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn here on New Year's Eve, the last day of 2020. We are live on social media and Business Talk Radio. My guest today is Mr. Red O'Loughlin. Welcome back.
Glad to be back.
So as we end this year, I'm thinking that there's an opportunity for you to be a speaker in so many organizations on so many platforms. How do people reach out to you for your speaking engagements?
Generally, you had a crawler a little while ago. I think my phone number was on there. Typically, the easiest way to reach me is a phone. RedO'Loughlin.com has a way of contacting me, but generally speaking, just call me on the phone. I'm old-fashioned. My granddaughter loves to text. I haven't quite. I do. There's sometimes when I believe it's the best way to go. She was lost in the Astrodome once, and she kept texting back and forth. And I said, "Call me," because. If I want to get to my daughter, I text and then she'll answer. If I call her but for me, call me, because that's the easiest way for people to actually hear me. We can take care. Okay, I had one this morning, so I call. We have an appointment for Monday at 4 p.m. That's the easiest way for me to do is just call.
I like that. And so for our friends on the radio, the number to call is 281-687-1188.
Yeah, 281-687-1188.
1188. Red, what's next for you?
One of the things that I've been doing, I've been an author, a publisher, a speaker, but I have books on health and wellness. That's where my passion lies. But my passion has been getting new authors to get their books written. But I don't have books on being an author or being a publisher. So I wrote a book in November on what are the things that a new author has to know, has to do, or at least be aware of. They don't have to do it depending on who their audience is and how many sales they want. So I have a book that's literally done. It's going into the last couple minutes before I put it out. Then I started thinking. I tell people all the time, in fact, I told 2 people this morning on networking events, what are the 25 things about whatever this topic is that you need to know? What are the 25 things that you never ask about? Those can be a 40 or 50-page ebook. And that's something that's very, very easy to do. And so if I'm looking at it, what are the 25 things an author doesn't think about or must always consider, then that becomes a separate book as opposed to what I was doing earlier, where I'm kind of taking them down a yellow brick road. You don't need this particular stop, but it's nice to know it's there. So I have 2 books on publishing that I want to get done. I have 1 book on brain health and 1 book on heart health that I actually did all the research on October a year ago when I was down in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba with my sister. I was down there for 3 weeks, and I did a lot of research. I came back, I got involved with a couple things, and then COVID hit and this and that. And I get 3.5 inches of paper right here that I printed out on nothing but heart health. And so that's going to be one of my books I want to turn around. I walked the Camino de Santiago. I have an 80-page pictorial that I use on PowerPoint when I do church visits and things like that. That I talk to them about, we were walking 18 miles a day, plus or minus a little. 30 miles, we did 500 miles. We did 500 miles in 30 days. So I have a book that I want to do on that. So, and if I look at my whiteboard, there's lots of other topics, but I would like to get a couple, 3 or 4 books done this year for me, in addition to helping other people.
Well, I really admire you. And if you can share with our audience, what are the pros and cons of self-publishing versus working with a publisher?
If you have a lot of money, you have choices. If you don't have a lot of money, your choices are a little bit more limited. So I think on the first end of things, if you have $5, $6, $7, $8, $10,000 and a publisher's interested in working with you, then that may be the way to go, because they're going to hold your hand. They're going to do your website. They're going to have the editors to developmentally get your thing right, to make sure your copy's all done. They're going to get a video trailer, maybe. They're going to take care of the Amazon ad, whatever it is in their package. If you don't have the money, I mean, you could literally publish a book for free. It costs nothing to write and publish a book. You get covers for free. Everything can be done for free. YouTube is your friend. You need to go there and find out what you need to do. But if you never formatted a book in a 6x9 format, that's daunting. So I can tell people, the first time I ever tried to change a carburetor in the car, I had to have somebody show me, because we didn't have YouTube back then. But once I saw somebody do it, it was simple. The same thing with, once you do something or somebody shows you how to do it, it's simpler. Now, it may be that I don't want to change the brakes on my car. I'll pay somebody to do that. I don't have time or the inclination. They may not have the time or inclination to format a book or to put it on, whatever. So there are times when you want to do it, so you learn how, the next time I can do it cheaper, better, faster. And there's sometimes you say, yeah, maybe this is something that I'm just going to let somebody else help me with. But self-publishing literally can be free if you have somebody help you with some aspects of it. On editing, the easiest thing to do, there's a place on most of the word processors that says read back. You put your cursor here, read back, you listen to it. It goes across every word. If you hear something wrong, fix it. I have parties at my house, usually wine and cheese. I hand out random chapters of my book because I write on technical subjects, health and wellness. I'm really getting into the molecular level. And I give them a red pen. They have social intercourse for about 30 minutes, then 90 minutes. They just go find a private place. They sit down and they circle anything that doesn't make sense. There's a lot of different ways of editing. You don't have to pay somebody to do it. But these are things you need to do as you go along. But you don't want to publish a book that has a lot of errors in it. There are some really, really good editing software. Grammarly is a great one. I use it. Then on the other end, if you don't know how to do a press release, YouTube is your friend. If you don't know how to format a book for Kindle, YouTube is your friend. There's a lot of things you can do out there. Fiverr.com, 5rr.com is what I recommend for a lot of covers. Usually they take for $5, but in reality, for $50 or less, you can get a really good looking cover for both your ebook and your physical book. And those are things that, okay, if I can do a book for, I tell people I usually do it for $500. That's what I do my books for. I think that's realistic for what I'm doing, but I'm not doing everything else. But if you can get your book done, $500, $600, and you have something and you can sell it, you can give it away, you can do it. I mean, there are many, many things you can do with the book. A friend of mine here, he's had best-selling book last 4 years in a row, same book. The thing is the size of a CD cartridge, and it's 52 pages. And he has made maybe $1,500, $2,000 sales on Amazon. But he's made over $800,000 giving away as a business card. $800,000 in 4 years using the book as a business card that has 52 pages.
Incredible.
Which is him as the credible source in that industry for the kinds of people he deals with. And so he just leaves a couple, 3 of them on the desk, and the people come to him. So these are things, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with the book. You don't have to have a physical book like this. Maybe a 25-page ebook is all you need for your business. But these are things you need to come to grips with. Who is your audience? What do they really need? What solution are you giving them? If you know their problem and you can help them with their solution, then why not help them in writing? You can do it video. You can do a lot of different ways, audiobooks. But for most of us, a book is still a common way of doing it.
Brett, I know I am going to be calling that number and I'm going to be working with you. As we come to the end of our program, you've given us so many wonderful tips, whether it's about our health or public speaking or even writing a book and how to publish a book. What would be your top 5 tips overall for us to take away from your interview here today as we go into 2021?
Okay, number 1 tip, salad plate. Less food, less calories. That's caloric restriction. Number 2, get balance within the food you have. We're talking nutritional balance. We want 30 nutrients on that plate. Those are your leafy green vegetables. That's not your mashed potatoes. It's not your French fries. It's the fruits and vegetables and a protein. If you're going to use a fat, butter is a perfectly good fat. So is coconut oil. If you want to actually improve yourself, start reading labels. If you don't know what something is there, Google will tell you what it is. Usually if it's a bad thing, it'll tell you pretty quickly. So that's toxin awareness. Make sure that your body is more alkaline than it is acidic. Acidic body breeds disease. It does a lot of things you don't want. If you want to be older and strong bones, then you want to be having that calcium get into the bones. So you want to be aware. Most health food stores have a pH strip. You just touch it to your tongue, it turns a color. You push it up, okay, I'm 7.5 or I'm 6.5. It tells where you are. If you're 6.5, you need to be the other direction. Start changing things to get it there. And the last thing, if you want to write a book, I'm available, but more importantly, who is your audience? What problem do they have, and how can you solve it? And maybe the best solution is to eyeball somebody answering questions so you don't spend all your time writing and editing. I think that's 5.
I think that's pretty darn good. Thank you. This was a great way to close out the year for 2021. Thank you so much for being my guest here. And again, contact information for our friends on the radio. The best way to get in touch with you is your telephone number, area code 281-687-1188. And I thank you so much. Any final words?
I truly wish everybody an unbelievable, wonderful, prosperous 2021. Based on what we went through 2020, everything's on the upswing. There may be some little things here, there, and yonder, but I think our mindsets are there. Just get that mindset established for 2021 and don't let anything get in your way.
Red O'Laughlin, thank you so much for being my guest here today. I will see you backstage in just a minute.
Dr. Jacalyn, I am super happy that you asked me to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching our program. I wish everyone a beautiful, happy, healthy, safe, and prosperous new year. And I hope you'll tune in tomorrow. We're having part 2 of the Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn presents the 2021 Wealth of Health events. We have 17 presenters who will have 15 minutes each to share something with our audience to help set an intention or focus for the coming year. Thank you again. God bless you. We will see you again next time. Hopefully you'll join us at 4:00 for our dating program. It's a special episode. We are going to be talking about the art of kissing. Join us then. Bye.